When someone passes, where do they go? Gone forever, or can they show? What if you could find someone between to bridge the gap of those?
I'm Michele Livingston, and I've been a spiritual medium for the last 30 years, appearing on Fox News, New York.
Hello, everybody. I'm Greg Jarrett. Welcome back to Breaking News. It's going to be a really interesting guest for the hour. Michele Livingston is a visionary counselor.
On stage with medium James Von Prague.
Did anybody smoke, Richard?
Yes.
I smell tremendous smoke even up here. Was that your father that smoked?
My father and my mom.
On ABC
There's
News.
Air, oxygen everywhere, you can't see it, but it's here. Same thing with the spirit realms. So even though it's in a beautiful invisible realm, I have the capacity to tap into it and actually see them. He says, thanks for the balloons. I have no idea what that means. God. Do you have your mother's ashes with you?
My brother and I had necklaces made with her ashes in them, and I just took it off the chain tonight and put it in my pocket because I was curious if it would come up, and it did.
From the east in Harrisburg, PA, to the west in Hollywood, CA, I'm the People's Medium.
It's Michele Livingston, everybody.
Mr. Tony Sweet, how are you?
I'm wonderful. Thank you so much.
It's so good to be back.
It is.
And
see you
I just want to say something on the front end here. My next podcast, for people that want to know, is going to be Wednesday, December 4th. And it's on the 7 archangels. We vibrate with different colors, each one of us, and actually archangels. So there are 7 rays of color that they portray. And that will be for Christmas. That'll be Wednesday, December 4th, before the new year. So I wanted to let you know that's a little more lighthearted. But tonight we have a subject that is a little deeper. It's going deeper. And after doing this work for over 30 years, I've counseled parents who have lost children who took their life, companions, spouses, friends who've lost other friends. And they sometimes ask me, where does the soul go? We're taught in black and white. There's heaven and there's what's below, which is hell. But we're not condemned for the act of suicide. We are welcomed with open arms in heaven. Suicide is a choice. And God bestowed upon all of us free choice and free will. We have it down here on earth, and we have it in the higher frequencies of heaven. So I thought this would be an interesting show for people who have that deep loss. Sometimes there's guilt attached to the family that's left behind, but we're going to target signs to look for in your child or in your family of somebody that you feel is depressed. And we'll go over the signs, and I want to just talk a little bit about my book, Living in the Afterlife. There were, if you don't know about it, over 33 souls that came through to tell me what heaven was like. And it started with my dear mother, Dorothy, who said, you're going to write a book on heaven. And she helped me through it. But the 33 souls that came through, a few of them had taken their life. And there's a chapter on the issue of suicide. And I just wanted to go over a couple of those points from a spiritual perspective, from the love and the light. So anyhow, getting back to what we're talking about, people on the earth plane, many of us, and sometimes most of us, have a really rough time down here. We're filled with anxiety, we get depressed, and we have things that have even happened in childhood, in the formative years, that we hold on to. Because the formative years mold our life, and so does elementary school, and so does up to even teenage years and puberty. Is tough for a lot of children, especially girls, because hormonally everything's changing and we're going into teenage years. So I wanted to share that before we incarnate, we choose parents with God's will to learn and grow with. Remember, we're down here on a journey. We are light beings and are light bodies, let's say, the souls of the light body that has an evolutionary journey throughout eternity. I really don't feel we get one chance to perfect our lives, it's not about perfection, it's about awareness. It's about awareness of love and patience and tolerance and other kinds of virtues, not to be perfected, but to show love to all. And that's what it's about. So if someone does get themselves down, they do need help. And we're going to go over the signs in a minute. But those that are in severe pain, many times take their lives, terminally ill, those that we said are depressed or disabled. And many veterans that come back from wartime situations, even today, have nightmares and have trouble getting through certain aspects of the war, and they get themselves down. It's the intention behind the act of taking one's life that really matters. For example, if a mother jumps in front of an oncoming car to save her child, she took her life, but it wasn't intentional. If a soldier on the battlefield steps in front of his friend who's a soldier to take the bullet and saves his friend, he takes his own life, but he does it for a different purpose. So when we get up there to heaven, it's not that we're judged. We review our lives. It's called a life review. And literally, we can never run away from ourselves. Even in the Bible, it says we'll meet ourselves in a mirror dimly lit. And what that basically means is we're going to go through and go over how we have lived our lives. It's not about all being good. It's about what we've experienced and how we've experienced it and what we've done about it. So if someone does take their life for revenge, for spite, or to even hurt their family, that's when the wounds come in. And that's when they really have to address it in the next world, in the next dimension. And there is a form of rehab up there. Because souls retain their personality and their mind and their memory banks, many souls carry that knowledge of wanting to help someone. It's not the physical anymore, of course, but it would be more the spiritual aspect of helping them and counseling them. So there are actual counselors in heaven. In my book, I have two brief examples. One was from a lady, and I didn't know her. The book contains some of my family members, my clients who have passed, some celebrities, people that I never met that lived in the 1920s and 30s. It's a fascinating book. People from all over the world, from India, from Asia, that came through to say what it was like for them personally to make transition and what they experienced. But there was a dear lady named Marie, and I just have to say this as well. Because there's no condemnation, we do cut our timeline short, though. So I'm going to make it very simple. If we soul contracted 40 years of development on Earth to learn soul lessons, and we take our life at age 20, we're out of 20 earthly years of development here on Earth. So that's the downside. And the other side of it is we leave a wake of pain for our family and friends, wondering, sometimes guilt. So it does have repercussions, and it can, as you know, become a domino effect in family. This lady's name was Marie, and she grew up on a farm in Iowa. I was sitting out on my deck. It was a beautiful summer day, and I looked up across from my little cafe table, and there was a lady with she wanted to project as she lived when she was on a farm in Iowa. And she told me that she was abused by her father. And she told me that she didn't have a pleasant childhood, that her mother was bipolar in those days, but no medication was given, that they were very poor. Her brother passed at the age of 10 from pneumonia, and they didn't have the money to take him to the doctor. So she really didn't have an easy life. She left home, married at the age of 17 to an older boy who was 22, and ran off with him. He was an alcoholic, Marie said, and she endured that for a few years, became pregnant and had a little girl she named Sarah. And through this whole time, she's becoming a little more fearful, a little more tired of life, and a little more anxiety ridden. So she started to do house cleaning, and she was cleaning a farmhouse. And it was one of those days she couldn't cut it. She just felt so down that there was no hope, that there was no future, and literally there was no way out of her condition. So I'll say this briefly. She went to the shed and she took a shotgun that they would use to hunt deer, and she took her life. She said she rose above her body. I find this very fascinating. And the animals on the farm could see her. The horses, the dogs, the cats. They would get a little bit aroused when she'd come by. You know, they'd see her. And thank you, John, for letting our business folks. It is always something. I am so sorry. It never fails. This is live, people. We will get it right. I'm just going to ignore it. All right. So anyhow, she roamed at the farm for about 5 years of earthly time. I want you to remember, please, there is no time in heaven. Time is man-made in this dimension, in this third dimensional world. So she wandered for about 5 years because she was never told about heaven. She was never told about angels or what is beyond, and she didn't know what to expect, and she was just kind of bound to that place. A volunteer, one of her spirit guides from heaven, came down and said to her, Marie, you got to come with me. You've been kind of roaming around here for the last few years. We need to go up, and there's work to do up there. And she said, I don't want to work. I don't want to work. I've worked all my life. And he said, well, it's beyond that. You need help, and you need help to forgive people in your life that have hurt you. And he finally talked her into this, which I find is fascinating. They went up, straight up, and the light got brighter and brighter and brighter. And she saw some of her loved ones that she never met on earth. They were great grandparents. They came to her and they said, Marie, welcome home. And she was taken to an area where there was a horseshoe-shaped table, and it was called, quote unquote, the council sat there. And they said, you need to go through a life review, Marie. And she said, well, what's that? What's that have to do with it? They said, for you to see who you've loved, how you've been hurt, but to objectively view your life. This is called soul progression. It's evolutionary. You can never destroy the soul. The soul is eternal. It's indestructible. And a hologram movie formed around her, and she saw herself being born in the shack because her parents were so poor. She saw very rapidly glimpses of her life until the very end when she took her life. And one thing that she needed to do was to forgive. She carried that in her heart. Even then, even though she didn't have a physical heart or a physical body, she carried that within her. And she forgave those that were still on earth, that were still living, that hurt her, like her ex-husband. And she also forgave those that were with her in heaven, and one was her father. So that was very interesting. A lot of these souls that come through in my readings have remorse about the act. They realize now that they had a timeline that may have gone on, and they cut their timeline short. The other one I just briefly want to mention, and I'm going to get a drink of water, hold on, is Robin Williams. I don't say names in this book for a number of reasons. A couple celebrities came through, but I just wanted to mention his interpretation of it. And he was the last soul that I added to the book. I was sitting there and I heard, hey, you know, in his voice. And this is basically what Robin Williams said. I'm probably the last spirit you thought you'd hear from, but I'm here to discuss suicide. I took my life, and I did it because I was tired, plain and simple. I had lived my life in the limelight, always trying to make people happy, to make them laugh. And I was, as you would call it in today's world, an empath. I was able to actually morph into another person and become a different persona, which we know that he could do very, very easily. Although my performances seemed effortless, they were torture for me because I found myself either not grounded as to who I really was, or totally grounded in another persona. And he says, I had addictions. Many people that are empathic or anxiety ridden will try to numb the pain, as we know, through drugs or alcohol. So he had several addictions. He says he wasn't sorry he took his life. He said his only remorse was to leave his family behind. And he did not go through a tunnel. Lots of souls in this book talk about the connecting portal from this lower frequency earth plane to the higher, faster frequency of heaven. And their connecting portals are all different. Some are amethyst purple, some are emerald green with sparkling lights. But he shot straight up. He really did. And he says, I shot up straight up to the light, and I saw my grandmother, and she says, what the H are you doing here? That's what she said to him. She said, you have fans down there. You have family. You have people that love you. Why did you do that? And he said, I was tired. So I feel that he might have had ALS. I think he had it. And he also was starting to have dementia because at the end he was hiding things and he was paranoid. So that was his take on it. And so he also says, I feel and I know, Robin Williams says, that there is a pre-written destiny for everyone. So far, I'm not condemned and I'm not in hell. I'm in a place of peace and I'm in a place of light, and I like it here. And he said, we do retain our personalities here, but not our pain. So of the many, many, many souls over these many decades that have come through, he really didn't have remorse. He was tired, and it was a little bit cut and dry with him. I thought that was such an interesting perspective. And I just have a couple more things to say. And we are going to bring on a very interesting guest, bless her, who lost her daughter to assisted suicide. We're not going to get into the website, of course, but we want to pay tribute to her daughter. And later the phone lines will be open. I do have to tell you that. If you've had a friend, a relative, a child, a spouse who has taken their life, call in. I want to talk to you. I may be able to get them through from heaven. And believe me, by now they are in heaven. And we'll talk to this beautiful lady. And I just want to say a couple things before we go to break. I found out by doing this research for this show that the second leading cause of death in the world is suicide. Can you believe this? The second cause of death between ages of 15 to 34, which is really interesting. And every 12 minutes in the United States, a person takes their life. So pray for them, because by the end of this podcast, there'll be several people who have done that act, who have committed the act. 130 Americans approximately take their life each day in America. And Tony, I have a question for you. I don't know if you left the room.
I'm here.
Are you there?
I'm here.
What state, this is just a trivia question, do you think has the largest rate per year of suicides? Do you have any idea what state in the United States?
I mean, I know, just living out in California, I know there's several people that I know that have committed suicide in the last few years, but I'm gonna probably have to pick a cold weather state. So maybe like New York. I don't know.
Well, that's what I would have said. I really would have said New York, but because you're in Burbank, California, California is the number one state.
Well, there is a lot. I mean, about 10 people I know in the last 2 years that I knew, that friends or acquaintances that killed themselves.
I'm so sorry about that.
Yeah.
And so, that's the number one state. Texas is two. It's a large state. Florida is next, which I would think is a warm weather state.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people have seasonal affective disorder, which they're worse from November through March with depression. But, and the fourth state is our state here of Pennsylvania. So if you're watching me in PA, our state's number 4. So God bless everybody. Depression and disability enters into this act. Over 50% of people who take their life can be helped with treatment. If there are signs, and we're going to go over the signs that you notice, have them get help. Psychologist, medication, talking about it, whatever they need to get help. It's not a mental illness, this condition, but it can result from bipolar depression or disorder, PTSD, which is post-traumatic stress disorder, and a lot of we had Veterans Day a couple days ago. A lot of the vets, come back from Vietnam or Iraq, and they have this condition where they're traumatized. It can also happen in our childhood too. Borderline personality disorder, schizophrenia, substance abuse is big. There are accidental overdoses in this country from drugs, but a lot of it is done with pills or with drugs, the act of suicide. And simple anxiety, these young girls with eating disorders, that's another level of it, with bulimia and anorexia. They just cannot cope with how they look. So the warning signs, I'll go over them briefly. If you're a parent watching, if your child's on the internet a lot, looking things up, if your child starts to sort of move away from you emotionally, or if a friend does, a relative, a spouse, here are the warning signs. Write them down, or please listen to me, because this is when the red flag goes up. One is sadness or moodiness, and it's long-term. They're sad, they're down. Number two, hopelessness about the future. Like in my book, Marie, she had no hope. She didn't have anything to look forward to. Sleep problems is big. Either they sleep a lot, or they don't want to get out of bed, or they can't sleep at all. It's a manic depressive form of depression. Withdrawal, avoiding people, avoiding family, avoiding social situations, not wanting to leave the house is another sign. Changes in personality drastically, or even appearance. They don't want to dress, they don't want to shower. And this is not 100% of the time or the cases, but these are the signs that are very, very well known. They have dangerous, erratic, harmful behavior, driving fast, unsafe sex, use of substances, to the point that they really don't care if they overdose. And it can be, which I found out was very, very interesting, a recent trauma. As simple as, believe it or not, losing a pet, losing a spouse, getting a divorce, financial problems. It goes on and on like this. And the one thing that is very interesting too is before, if it's premeditated. Now, some of it is spontaneous, the act of suicide, but some of it is premeditated. And if it is premeditated, there is a calmness that comes over the person where they're very much different, because they're starting to get things in order. They're starting to give things away to friends. If they're older, they might all of a sudden write a will. They might write you a note. And then they might figure out, well, how am I going to commit this act? By a firearm, for heaven's sakes. Poison, hanging, God bless them. And assisted suicide is on the rise with certain websites for younger people. So what we're going to do is take a break, but I do have to say there's help for them, because I want you to listen to this. 3/4 of those that are going to take their life will give you some type of a sign. And you'll not just see one sign, they're going to start to overlap. So not all the signs are going to mean someone's going to commit this act, but most of them really do, and especially when they're together. We have a beautiful lady coming on. We're going to just take a really short break. Please stay with me. She lost her daughter, as I said, to an assisted suicide website on the internet. And we're going to open phone lines. So stay with me. It is a free call. People see 323 and they think they're calling out to California and they don't want to run up their phone bills. Trust me, I do this for you. This is my way of giving back. And I will give you readings. And I really want to talk to you about what you've experienced with the subject tonight. So Tony, let's go, and we'll take a little break, and then I'll see you on the other side. How's that sound?
That sounds amazing. I'll be right back.
Okay.
If you enjoy the Michele Livingston Show and want to see her in person, check out her next live seminar.
So here we go. If you can work with me, close your eyes. We're going to take 8 deep breaths, and we're going to start.
Have you recently lost a loved one?
Who lost a husband recently? I had to take a deep breath with him. I feel it was fairly quick.
Could you be the next one to get a reading?
I think I'm with you, sweetie. There's a name like Bree. They're showing me cheese. My daughter. That's my daughter. That's the new one. They showed me Bree cheese and her daughter's name Bree. See how this works?
This seminar will provide an experience that will truly enhance your understanding of the other dimensions.
When we get over there, we train to help 1 or 2 people that are on the earth plane, and we train to be their guides or their helpers.
And confirm that you
There's a dad figure coming through here.
are never alone.
Did you enjoy it? Oh, thank you so much.
All right, we are back. It's Michele Livingston, the people's medium.
If you have unlimited minutes on your phone, when I said free, it's fine, is what I meant. But let's bring on our beautiful guest. Her name is Jackie. Hello,
Hi.
darling.
Hi.
Thank you so much for having the courage to come on the show. And I see a lovely ocean scene behind you. And did you take that picture? Or
I
where?
did. Yeah, this is actually my daughter and I would go here every year. It's Rehoboth Beach, Delaware. And I recently took this a few weeks ago. I just got in my car and decided to drive down and cry and just think of her. And yeah, this was our beach.
Well, let's talk a little bit about Sean, your daughter. And you found out later on that as a child she was bullied at school. Is that correct, Jackie?
Yes, she was bullied during her middle school years, a little bit in high school, but not as much as the middle school years, which is a hard age for most kids anyway. But she was always a little different. She didn't kind of fit into a lot of the most popular crowds, so she was kind of picked on a little bit.
Excuse me, let's go back one picture. There she is at, God bless her. Tony, can you go back? How old is Sean there, Jackie?
He's about 4 years old there.
She's adorable. And the next picture is Sean at about...
I want to say around 8.
Age 8. And then as we progress, oh, is she beautiful? She's a beautiful girl. And this was late teens. And I think you said to me, Jackie, towards mid-20s is when she took her life, right?
Yes, she was 25.
So did you see some of the signs that were mentioned?
She had a little bit of anxiety in high school. She started seeing some counselors, and I didn't learn until after she graduated. That's when things really started to go downhill really fast. She decided to drop out of high school or college. She was going to Penn State, and she couldn't work or talk to people. Even if she went to the store, she couldn't even look at somebody without shutting down. She had severe social anxiety and depression. And then she became agoraphobic, which she didn't even want to leave the house.
How old was she when that occurred, with not wanting to leave or look at people or socialize?
Around 21, 22. So it's been a couple years. We've been trying to work with her, and she had been seeing therapists. And it was kind of like an up and down thing too, because she would see a therapist, start to feel a little better and think I don't have to go, and then not go, and then decide, yes, I need to go back because I'm not doing well. And then the wait lists are, 3 to 6 months sometimes to even get into a doctor. So, even this past time, she made an appointment in February, and they couldn't get her in until July. and she took her life in May.
And I think that you had mentioned before you went on the air that it was after Mother's Day.
It was May 22nd. Yeah, right after Mother's Day.
Did she celebrate Mother's Day with you that year?
She worked that day, but I did get to see her a little when she got home. She actually stopped at the store and got me red roses and candy. And a friend of mine just made a shadow box with those roses in it.
That's beautiful. Have you seen any signs since she passed? Butterflies are a sign, birds are a sign. I was just curious if you think she's given you any form of a message.
Actually, the day that she died, as I watched them carry her out of the house and put her in the ambulance and drive away, we turned around and she died in her bedroom. When the ambulance drove away, we turned around and we saw, I thought it was a butterfly on her window, but it was actually a Luna moth. And it was outside of her. And I have never seen a Luna moth until this happened.
And I'm not familiar with a Luna moth. Are they large? Do they look like a butterfly? They similar?
It's kind of, well, I don't know if I can grab the shadow box if you can see it, because I actually have one in there.
That's all right.
Yeah.
But did you look up the meaning of it, though? Because everything has a meaning, darling.
It means resurrection, renewal of life.
Ah.
Yeah.
So it was almost like her soul's way of saying, look, Mom, look, Dad. You know, oh, my word, thank you. Look at this. There's a Luna moth.
Yeah, and it was dark at the time, and there was a little light. You know, there was a shadow underneath the Luna moth on her window was a cross, a shadow of a cross.
Oh, how beautiful.
And a couple days later, the day that we buried her, we had gone to have a wake, and that same Luna moth was there.
So that would be the connecting symbol.
Yeah.
And that was a beautiful picture, Tony. Thank you so much for showing that. They want us to know that they love us, that the bond of love is never broken. And they give us messages and signs. And I know there's a big hole in your heart. We won't get into detail, but this was an assisted suicide by a website. And so I assume Sean had probably researched your daughter, the site. Was she found by you or your husband, Jackie, or what transpired?
She was found by me, and I think she wanted it that way.
So she was close enough to you that she would have wished that.
Yes.
Sometimes when people take their lives, many times during readings, they'll do it away from family, away from parents. So do you think that was, it's hard to say it this way, did that help you to have any closure, or haven't you had any type of closure since this?
Really haven't had much closure. I really do feel like a big part of me has died losing her. But I'm happy that she did do it at home, in her bedroom where she was safe. At least, you know, she wasn't found by a stranger, you know,
Good.
Or lost somewhere. Or, yeah.
Well, I am so sorry. If you could express to parents watching or to someone else watching, what would you say? Would you tell them to look for signs? Would you tell them to have that person get help immediately? I know you said there was a wait list for even a psychologist for her. Yeah. But would you tell them to have the person get on medication? What, as someone that has experienced this tragedy, what would you want to share with someone else to tell them how they could handle that type of person?
Yeah. And, you know, going through this and losing her, I'm now aware of so many resources and the people that I've met after losing her that I wish I had known them and all of this before. Because I really feel like some of these resources really could have helped her and I just didn't know. That's why it's so important with suicide awareness to get this information out there. It, you know, it wasn't in my face before, now it is. And I really wish I would have had like crisis intervention, you know, that's reach out to them.
Yes.
And they can point you in the right direction. with finding someone to help.
And there was a softer way. She didn't have, there was no gun involved, nothing tragic. You had mentioned she just ingested something. Is that correct?
They had given her a recipe of chemicals to take. Yeah.
Well, my heart goes out to you. I am, though, honored to have you on, Jackie. And I'm happy that you can share this with other people, that you had the courage to share it, because it's not an easy thing to do. And it's in a spiritual way, almost like your daughter is saying, Mom, help other people. Mom, move this concept forward. Everything's meant to be, Jackie. And I know that this is one of the worst tragedies to go through, especially with a child. But do you feel almost like you're on a mission now, that you need to accomplish something for other people through the loss of your daughter?
Yes, I do. Because when she had passed and we found out, because at first when I found her, I did not know. There was no indication, even, the police and coroner couldn't figure it out at the time, because there was no indication of self-harm. There wasn't anything found at first, until we actually found the chemicals, and then her phone, which proved where, she was online talking to people live. And even at the end saying, I'm terrified, and they're encouraging still. When someone said, go talk to your mom, she's right next to you. So I was happened.
Yeah, and that's what really is the most traumatic part of it.
Yeah, and I did not even know that there were websites out there like this. So just raising awareness to other parents, at least, to look for the signs, and parental controls, of course, at home, to look out for these kind of things.
Yeah, and that's why I listed the warning signs, and you can rewatch this podcast. It'll be on YouTube. If you're on my fan page right now on Facebook, I don't see comments. If you'd like to leave some, I'll be happy to answer them. If you'd like to view this, it's Michele Livingston, the People's Medium. But I want to say, my dearest, God bless you. I know that your daughter's around you, and I know that you feel her. And just the fact of the Luna moth being right at her window, and it's been less than a year, hasn't it? Going on,
not even 6 months yet.
Well, you're really doing a good job. I'm viewing you now, and you're a beautiful person. But I feel that you feel like you are on a mission, Jackie, don't you? I feel that this is something that needed to be done in your life. Okay, if you understand. So do you have anything else to tell people that are listening? Because this goes throughout the country as well. I think you've been on iHeart yourself talking about this, haven't you? Radio?
With Sylvia.
Pardon?
With Sylvia Moss. Yeah.
Okay. And what stations are we on, Tony? Spotify, you said?
iHeart, Spotify, Google Play, Apple, of course, iTunes, Stitcher, Spreaker, and pretty much Castbox, blah, blah, blah. Keeps going on and on and on. But so anywhere, any platform, you can pretty much find Michele.
Yeah. And this is why I wanted to bring this to the attention of people, that again, we do have free choice and free will, and that we're not condemned for this, but we need to go through a life review. We cut our timeline short, but please be aware. This is why we're having this show tonight. Please be aware of people around you, their moods, what they're dealing with. And if you see warning signs, even more than 2, I think there's 6 coming up, please get help for them. Yeah. Get help for them.
Because she had turned, they start to lose hope. And when you go to a website like this, they just push you to the dark. And there is help out there.
There is help out there. And one thing, before this show came on, you said that she was supposed to log off. We're not going to mention the site, but she was supposed to log off and didn't. And that's how you know about it. Is that right?
they had scrubbed her from that site. So there is nothing on there anymore, but we have the proof on her phone. Thank God, it was left on there.
And again, watch your teens, watch your young adults. Even if they don't live at home, I believe in the power of prayer. Pray for your loved ones, for your family, and for your friends. So I want to thank you, Jackie, for coming on. Anything else you'd like to add before we go to phone calls, my dearest?
I can't think of anything else.
Well, I thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Mm-hmm. God bless you. My heart goes out to you. You're a beautiful person. Thank you for coming on. Okay, so yes, there are people like Jackie, beautiful Jackie, that I've counseled for many years that have lost family members, children. And I hope this just gives you a little bit of an awareness of what to look for, that they don't go to hell. As I said in my book, Marie, she just didn't understand. She just was lost. But Jackie's daughter, Sean, she's in the light. She's in the love of God. She's probably gone through her life review. And remember, there's no time. So, Tony, if we have any phone calls, I want you to please stay on the subject tonight. If you're listening or you're watching, this is the subject. Does anybody have a question about this subject, this act of suicide, Tony?
Well, we definitely have a lot of calls, and a lot of the calls, it looks like there's several that are wanting to have readings about loved ones that had committed suicide. So, but yeah, the chat rooms, they're talking about a lot of the, messages and depression and all kinds of stuff in the chat room. I think of loved ones that are going through it, maybe themselves. So, but do you want to take a call from a 717?
Sure.
All right, let's do it. All right, you're live on air with Michele Livingston. Go ahead.
Hi,
Hello?
Michele. How are you?
Who is this?
Hi, Michele. This is Charlotte Fearing.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much, Charlotte, for calling in. And may I ask who you lost? Who did you lose, dear?
21 years ago, when I was 18, I lost my mother.
Oh, and you would be the first caller. We just had Jackie on, a mother who lost a child. And you were 18 and lost your mother. That's very tragic, darling. Believe it or not, your mother's been over for quite some time, in earthly time, but it's a blink of an eye for her. And I'm going to try to get her through for you, Charlotte. I have a lady coming in. She felt a little bit hopeless. Now, I don't know if you saw these signs when you were younger or growing up, Charlotte. Your mother says, I love you, Char. I love you, Charlotte. And she says, I felt so overwhelmed at times with life. And I don't think she was diagnosed with anything. But is her name Tina, or there's a T connection with your mother?
Gary.
Is that your mother? Because when they give me initials or sounds of names, it's either who they're with or who they want to talk about, but she's acknowledging herself as Terry. She had remorse about this, but I want to tell you something. She has been a spirit guide of yours, Charlotte, for some time. And she's so happy, sweetheart. She watches over a grandchild. And I don't, do you have a daughter, honey?
I do.
Your mother says, I couldn't let a day go by, even in heaven, without watching over my granddaughter. And I'm feeling like your granddaughter is going to go through, her granddaughter, your daughter, Charlotte, is going to go through some changes. Your mother, this is very interesting. She wants to be very succinct. She wants to come right on forward. And she wants to let you know, again, apologizing but she's making up for it by being a spirit guide of your daughters. And she's talking about puberty. May I ask how old your daughter is, honey?
Well, she's 12, but she literally just went through puberty a couple of months ago.
Your mother was helping her through that because there's a lot of hormonal shifting. She's a beautiful girl, your daughter. And your mother squares her shoulders. She says, I'm so proud of you for being a mother and for being a good one. I feel when your mother passed, she was very dizzy. It's almost like it was a premeditated situation, Charlotte. Now, I don't know if you know this or not. Some acts of suicide are very spontaneous. I feel your mother had thought this through. Do you agree with that? Or do you think it was something that she just did spontaneously?
I don't know. I have a lot of questions about the whole situation, so it makes sense it could have been.
I feel she ingested something. I don't think it was similar to Jackie's daughter, but I feel it was some type of medication, maybe pills or something. But I'm also getting a feeling of being very lightheaded. So may I ask who found her? Hopefully you didn't find her, darling, but who found her?
It was my Aunt Pauline.
And where was she located? In the house?
In the garage.
So she would have taken pills, gone into the garage. I wonder why. Well, she says it was, she may have had a car running. Would that have been the case too?
Yeah, that's what happened.
I'm so sorry,
she took
darling.
some pills and then she went into the garage.
It was painless. Her passing was absolutely painless. And another thing she wants to say is congratulations to you. Are you getting married? I'm getting the symbol for balloons and marriage. Are you?
Well, someday. I mean, we have been talking about it.
Did you say, oh, someday? Okay. Yeah.
No, I'm engaged.
Pardon?
I am engaged.
Your mother puts her thumb up. She likes him. And she says, Charlotte, he's going to be a good provider. She says he's quite a salesman.
Oh, wow. Wow.
I don't know if he does that for a living. I think what she means is he has an outgoing personality. And she says to me that she's watched that he's very, pardon?
He's an insurance agent.
Well, she knows about it. And
obviously.
She tucks you in at night, Charlotte, and she tucks your daughter in at night. She liked the holidays, your mother. And again, with a heart of sorrow and remorse, having to do over, she would have had therapy. She didn't realize about the life review. She didn't realize about we can never run away from ourselves. But I want to say thank you so much, darling, for calling in. I hope this helped you to know that your mother watches over you and that she's a guide of your daughters and that you are her number one girl, her baby girl, darling. You really are.
Well, I just want to say thank you. This might have been life-changing for me. Thank you.
Well, this is why I do the work. I want to say God bless you. Have a happy Thanksgiving coming up, darling. Good night.
Thank you. You too. Good night.
Aw.
Well, that was a good one. That was a good one.
What you need to know is when we get to the higher frequency, and after we go through a life review, our guides say, what do you want to do now? Do you want to train to be a helper of someone down on earth? And I'm sure that Jackie's daughter, Sean, is kind of like a guide. I really feel that, helping Jackie to get this word out. And I feel that Jackie's on a mission. Are there any other calls
yeah.
regarding this subject?
Yeah, there's
Tony?
one from 218. I think it's Michaela, but I'm going to go ahead and bring them on. So you're on with Michele Livingston. Go ahead.
Hello, Michaela.
Hello.
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 Hi, Michaela. We got you on.
Hi. Wow, I didn't think this would happen.
Well, guess what? It happened. The angels were pulling some strings anyhow. Where are you calling from?
Duluth, Minnesota.
Minnesota. Did you lose someone through suicide?
Yeah, I just lost my brother a week ago.
A week ago. I'm so sorry, darling.
Thank you.
I cannot pull these souls through. A week is literally less than a blink of an eye, less than a second. But I feel I have your brother through. And he's kind of get down. He has jeans on, Michaela. He's wearing jeans. He was very sensitive. He doesn't want to be fancy, that guy. He says, McKay. He says, McKay, or Kay. He says, I felt misunderstood. He also says he got himself really down, and at times it was hard to pull himself back up. But I hear music. Did he like music? Did he ever listen to music?
He loved music.
Mm-hmm.
He was always at concerts and everything.
Yeah. I don't think he played, but he just loved music. And I have to say something interesting. Yeah. When he first got to the light, guess what he heard, Michaela? He heard music. And that's what pulled him into the light, was actually the music. And is your dad still on earth?
Yes.
Because he sends love down to Daddy. Your dad has taken this in a very difficult way. Some of your family members have a little bit of guilt about this action, but I feel it was fairly quick, and I just feel like he, again, was not in pain. Now, somebody either likes tattoos or doesn't like tattoos. What's the issue?
My dad doesn't like tattoos.
Well, I want to say, if anybody in family is thinking about getting one, I'm just going to tell you this, like a sibling. You know what your bro says? Be my guest. He says you don't have to listen to Dad on that one.
Getting a tattoo in his honor. He was a military veteran, so.
Was he really?
Yep.
Well, God bless America. I wonder if he didn't have a touch of the post-traumatic stress disorder, Michaela.
He did. He absolutely did. He was actually supposed to go into treatment the night that he did it.
Well, I need to say that your brother was welcomed with open arms. And he was a grandfather figure. I feel it's your dad's dad. Your paternal grandfather was there with him or for him. And I also have to say that he's talking about a pet, believe it or not. I don't know if you guys had a dog growing up. Did you?
Yeah, we had Tucker.
Well, guess what?
He's with Tucker.
We're on a delay. I talk fast. He's with Tucker in the spirit world, Michaela.
Oh, good.
And that dog follows him around heaven, sweetheart. He says, this is my buddy. And he says, we go everywhere together. And if you want to get your memorial tattoo, he's winking. He says, that's a good idea. He's a character. He was a beautiful person. I do have to say, a beautiful person, because he had a good heart and because he was sensitive and he carried this traumatic post-stress disorder. This is what took him down. He couldn't get it out of his mind. And he may have had some bad dreams about it. But I'm so glad he was able to get through, darling, tonight. I'm so glad. And he says, keep your chin up, Michaela. He says you have good work to do on earth. Okay.
Yeah, that sounds exactly everything that you said. That's him.
Yeah, he puts his thumb up like, hey, this is good. So thank you for calling all the way from Minnesota. God bless you, and I hope you listen again and watch. I'll be on again December 4th. It's a Wednesday, and we're going to talk about archangels and the colors and the rays of the archangels and how they vibrate with us. So I hope you listen or watch again, Michaela.
Awesome. I absolutely will. Thank you so much.
Good night.
Good night.
Well, we may have time for one more, Tony, if there's any
we have
more
time
calls.
for one more from 717. Let's go ahead and take it. Looks like a friend took their life 4 months ago. So let's try this. 717, you're on with Michele Livingston.
Hi, Michelle.
Hello, and who am I talking to?
My name's Ashley.
Hello, Ashley. Who did you lose?
This is really new for me. So, my best friend.
What part of it's new for you? Talking to heaven or just the whole concept?
The whole concept and the fact that it's very fresh.
Yes. Your friend was kind of a get down. Was this male or female?
Female.
Yeah. She hit a lot. Now, again, I don't know if I have her fully through. I have to be honest. I can't pull them down. But she hit a lot of emotional feelings. You were about her best friend. She calls you her soul sister, honey. So she told you things that she wouldn't have told her own family, possibly. I hope you understand that. And she calls you Ash, and she says, we were pretty tight. I don't know if you're watching or listening. Are you watching or listening?
No. I'm kind of watching and listening.
Okay, because she crosses her fingers. That's why I wanted you to know if you're watching. And says we were really tight friends. We knew each other a long time. And I held a lot in. And I'm going to say there were some things that happened to this girlfriend of yours early on, Ashley, in school. She tells me there was peer pressure. She tells me it was something to do with weight. So I don't know if she was dieting. How old are you, darling? How old are you, Ashley?
I'm 38. I'm 38 and she's 45.
Yeah, so this was an ongoing thing with appearance as well. And it started way back early on with her appearance. But you would sit down and talk, and you talked a lot on the cell phone. This is what she tells me. And I wouldn't be at all surprised if she's going to start to work electrical things around you. She has a sweatshirt on. I just want to tell you how they project. She's wearing a sweatshirt. And she tells me, when you're in the kitchen, Ashley, I'm with you. Let's have a cup of coffee, she says. And she doesn't want you to feel down, sweetheart. It's easier said than done. But her life was not in vain. And she honors you for having the courage to call in here this evening, because it does take courage. And she says, you'll never do that to yourself. And she has some remorse about it. She really does. But she says she misses your laughter, Ashley. She misses your smile. And she misses your talks. So you were pretty close, weren't you, honey, with her?
We were very, very close. And we talked every day on the cell phone.
That's right. That's what she's telling me. And I want you to hear this. If your cell phone rings and no one's there, it's your girlfriend. It's your soul sister. She wants to call herself your soul sister. So know she's in the light of God. Know she's met up with some of her relatives over there. And even though she has some remorse about it, though, she says she's free. And I find this so interesting. I want you to listen to me. She says, Ashley, I'm free. Did you know that she was in emotional pain? Did she ever tell you that, Ashley?
When she was a senior in high school, she tried to commit suicide. And there's just a lot of questions surrounded by her suicide. And like, I felt like I needed to do this for closure for me, to know that this is what she really wanted.
Absolutely. And remember, I said it goes back to school days. Remember, I said there was peer pressure. And so I don't know you. I don't know her, but she was letting me feel that emotion, that this started way back, that she wanted to look presentable. It was about appearance. It was about weight. There were trust issues as well with her, and I won't go on.
Yeah.
But I have to say, darling, you must have closure, because she's in a far better place and she's free. Okay?
Yeah, and her and I really struggled this summer together with a lot of things, and in a lot of ways I feel like she died to save me, because I've been struggling too, and so it's just really hard.
Listen to me. You're a beautiful person. You're not to join her. You're not to cut your timeline short, Ashley. You have a lot to do, darling, this lifetime. You're a beautiful person, and you're needed here. You're going to do something very important with your life. Please don't even think like that. Just know your friend's in a better place, a place of light, but you're supposed to remain on earth. Okay, dearest?
Okay.
Good night, Ashley. God bless.
All right.
Well, I'm glad that I brought some people closure about this act. If you yourself are down, please get some help. Go to a therapist. Have therapy. Take some medication. Walk in nature. Go within. Get yourself together. Know that you're on a timeline. It's not your time to make transition. When it's your time, you will do that naturally. Okay? So I thank Jackie, and I thank the callers. I thank the viewers. I want to say good night. Always be kind. Remember December 4th, Wednesday, Archangels for Christmas, their colors, and how they assist us on our journey through our lifetime. So I want to say good night, Tony. Thank you so much for helping
Good night,
in California.
My dear. Have a happy Thanksgiving.
Thanks. Same to you. And you're going to Kansas, aren't you?
I am next week.
Well, you and your beloved have a wonderful time. God, and there's a lot to be thankful for this year.
Oh yeah, totally. And thank you. And I'm thankful to have you in my life. So.
Oh, and I'm thankful for you. You're so wonderful to me. Happy Thanksgiving. That's true, everyone. There's so many things to count blessings for. I wish you all the best, and I'll see you on December 4th. And by the way, our seminar has only 5 seats left. We're going to run a seminar commercial in Hershey, full buffet dinner for Thanksgiving. But hurry up if you want to come, because we have 5 seats left. Goodbye, everyone.
If you enjoy the Michele Livingston Show and want to see her in person, check out her next live seminar.
So here we go. If you can work with me, close your eyes. We're going to take 8 deep breaths, and we're going to start.
Have you recently lost a loved one?
Who lost a husband recently? I had to take a deep breath with him. I feel it was fairly quick.
Could you be the next one to get a reading?
I think I'm with you, sweetie. There's a name like Bree. They're showing me cheese.
My dog. That's my daughter.
That's the new one. They showed me Bree cheese and her daughter's name Bree. See how this works?
This seminar will provide an experience that will truly enhance your understanding of the other dimensions.
When we get over there, we train to help 1 or 2 people that are on the earth plane, and we train to be their guides or their helpers.
And confirm that you
There's a dad figure coming through here.
are never alone.
Did you enjoy it?